I hope you're doing really well. It's the 20th of January 2025. I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable of 18 years service. Since 2022, I have acquired irrefutable, verifiable and corroborative evidence of international government fraud that deliberately facilitates crimes against humanity and in particular against the children. It's linked to the taxation system and exploits and defrauds millions of people. And yes, this involves the UK government, US government, Canadian government, Commonwealth countries and Russia. They've all jumped on board because it is worth trillions of pounds. Now, hopefully, most of you will be aware of the devices that exploded in Lebanon in September 2024. Here's various articles in relation to it on Google. Please go and verify this, corroborate this information yourself. And there's various articles talking about it. You can see here, and we're going to look at the BBC article at the top. I believe it's here. And when you look at this article, I'll read it to you. It says, what we know about the Hezbollah device explosions. Dated the 17th of September 2024. There's a video here. I'll just play a small part of it. And it says at least 32 people, including 2 children, were killed and thousands more injured, many seriously, after communication devices, some used by the armed group Hezbollah, dramatically exploded across Lebanon on Tuesday and Wednesday. In the latest round of blasts on Wednesday, exploding walkie-talkies killed 20 and injured at least 450 people, according to a Lebanon's health ministry. Now, our international government, actually, I'll read the next bit as well. The explosions occurred in the vicinity of a large crowd and have gathered for funerals of 4 victims of Tuesday's simultaneous pager blasts, which killed at least 12 people and injured nearly 3,000. Now, our governments are in a corner right now. They are fully exposed with this system of fraud they have had in place. And remember, it is criminal, everybody, and it is against millions of people. Most people will be innocent in this. Many people have jumped on the back of it, probably not even knowing about the very sinister activities going on in the background. Nonetheless, our governments are in a very precarious situation because they are living with the evidence now being exposed, so they are very likely considering removing millions, if not billions, of innocent people so that they cannot rise and intervene and stop our governments doing what they are doing to the masses. So it's a very dangerous time, and we have to consider that they are using various methods to try and do this. Now, the reason I'm doing this video now is because today I had this text message from one of my contacts, and I've no reason to disbelieve or distrust this person. I've been in contact for a while, but I'm going to ensure they remain anonymous for now. And it says, Smart Cities to Start 2028 America. The plan is to take out a massive amount of people this year. Their plan is to have an update sometime this year, which will ramp up the power consumption of the phone via the CPU, overheating the battery, which will go bang. They've already tested the technology on the Lebanon pagers, which have a battery a quarter the size of a smartphone. So smartphone batteries, bang, will be 4 times more powerful than the pagers in Lebanon. Then they need enough people to run the smart cities after the bang. They will blame Russia and China for the attack. There will be faked evidence and videos to manipulate the people left, who will have seen 70% of people cut in half at the same time. Every service will collapse under the pressure, causing enough delay for the ruling class to hide away and watch the chaos from underground, where they have entire cities already stocked with everything you need to survive indefinitely. Android users are 70% and Apple 30%. This is the figures that he seems to think is the case here. Apple users are also prepared to pay more money for the products they sell. There are 3 billion Android users in the world. The Chinese phones that are banned from lots of countries, I suspect, have a feature that protects the CPU from updating the power consumption. This came to me. This is a document that I've produced in relation to research surrounding the concerns of the technology and police and military radio systems. You can verify and corroborate this information yourself, please do. Let's look at Pegasus, and we'll come to why. Pegasus spyware is a spyware developed by the Israeli cyber arms company NSO Group that is designed to be covertly and remotely installed on mobile phones running iOS and Android. As of March 2023, that's a very important date. Remember, I started exposing my evidence from 2022, and as I've continued to do that, things have been happening, and I suspect this is related. So as of March 2023, Pegasus operators were able to remotely install the spyware on iOS versions through 16.0.0.3 using a zero-click exploit. While the capabilities of Pegasus may vary over time due to software updates, Pegasus is generally capable of reading text messages, call snooping, collecting passwords, location tracking, accessing the target device's microphone and camera, and harvesting information. Let's look at Tetra, because Pegasus links to the police and military radios and to Tetra. So what is Tetra? Terrestrial trunked radio, in brackets Tetra, formerly known as Trans-European Trunked Radio, a European standard for a trunked radio system, is a professional mobile radio and two-way transceiver specification. Tetra was specifically designed for use by government agencies, emergency services, in brackets police forces, fire departments, ambulance, for public safety networks, rail transport staff, for train radios, transport services, and the military. Let's look at Pegasus on the Companies House records. This was very important. I've already submitted this previously, but I think it's now becoming incredibly relevant. So the Companies House records, you can verify this. Please go and verify this. You don't have to trust me. Trust the verifiable and corroborative evidence. What's very unusual about Pegasus is it has various Pegasus Limited companies that are still appearing to be active. That should not even be possible with Companies House. And you can see on the ones on the right here, and you can verify this. You've got the company numbers on this screen. You can go and check them. Okay, they're hiding the officers. They've hidden the directors and the secretaries for that company. That in itself is very concerning. And look when they were started. This one was started on the 22nd of February 2023, as I'm exposing the fraud. The other one below, Pegasus Worldwide Investments Holdings, was incorporated on October 2022. Again, the officers have been hidden. On the incorporation document for that company, you'll see that it is linked to Vistra Corporate Services Centre. When you go and research Vistra Limited, which will be connected to this, it is a fraudulent criminal organisation. Okay? So it's an organised crime group that we're looking at here, linked to the government. Also, on the incorporation document for this company, which is, we're looking at Pegasus Worldwide Investments Holdings, HMRC is even written on the document. Look at that. So the taxation system is directly linked to this threat to humanity. Okay, and this is tied to those that are linked to Israel and linked to Scripture via the Church of England. It is far from our Creator. It appears as though they are going to target humanity. Okay, well, they are humans. They are not gods. They have absolutely no right to target humanity because they may believe it's part of their faith. And of course, it isn't. These people are infiltrators of the faith groups, because Christianity would not condone the targeting of innocent people and children, etc. So here's another company. When you search Pegasus, you've got Crypt2 Limited. Again, this was incorporated in 2023. You can see here, look, as I'm exposing the fraud. So if we look at that company, it was originally called Pegasus Publishing Limited. You can see that on the overview, and they changed it. Okay, as I continue to expose the fraud, they're panicking. They changed it in 2024. On the incorporation document for that company, it is linked to Companies Made Simple, a very important company in all of this. Those of you who follow my research will know this links to the World Trade Center disaster and the government's removal of the company name from document. Here's Pegasus Limited, another Pegasus Limited on the right. You can see it's linked to Guernsey, and that started in February 2023. Hopefully I'm not making people sick moving the screen around. On the incorporation document, this is on the overview, this is very important. Remember, we're talking about the police and military radio systems. Now we have a link. Pegasus Airwave Limited. Those of you in the police will know that Airwave is linked to your radio systems that you're using. Bearing in mind, you've just seen articles of radios exploding. You know what this means to all of you, okay? I don't have to spell this out to you all, people, please. On the incorporation document for that company, it's fraudulent. It's Jordans and Sons Limited. It's linked to the fraud. Now remember, we've got these updates coming out, everybody, okay? When you go further down, now this all follows through, the evidential links follows through, you'll see connections to the police. But before we get to that, we'll focus on here, because you now have a link very, very quickly, okay? Bearing in mind there's over 5 million companies to Nightingale care beds. Well, that will be linking into the Nightingale hospitals that we were all led to believe were put there or set up for the threat from COVID to humanity. I suspect it's all to do with the radiation and the targeting through the mobile communication systems. Also, you then have various dragon companies, okay? That ties in, I suspect, with the Dragonfire, which is a directed energy weapon that the Ministry of Defence are now openly testing. Further down, you'll see various technological companies and healthcare companies, okay? So I don't know if you'll see it on your device, so I'll zoom in a bit. So you then have various healthcare companies, fraud all the way throughout, okay? Criminal organisations because of the illegality through the documents and the removal, the deliberate removal of company names and falsification of registers and the documents. You then have Red Bull Company linked to it. And then you go into various medical companies, as I've said. Healthcare companies, Huntley Healthcare, and then as you get down further, it's not far from here, you have police connections. Huntley International, fraudulent companies, Swift Incorporations and Jordans, and then all of these other companies will all be linked into the fraud. Bear with me. So these are all Huntley companies, okay, crime, fraudulent activities. Then it links into the child trafficking concerns, Ingenious Film Partners 2, the same company that those who've been following me, that links in with Hollywood. Okay, and everything we're seeing going on in Hollywood is all linked into this, people. The P. Diddy scandal. Then you have German companies, okay, because it all goes back to the fake theatre of the Nazi regime, where actually it was all funded by both sides, leading to where we are getting to now with this. International group of accountants and lawyers. They've got all of the accountants and lawyers knowingly or unknowingly involved in this. You then have a link to the Lancashire Partnership Against Crime. This then ties in with the death of Nicola Bulley. And here is the previous research of Nicola Bulley, and it links back in to this company. Okay, it's the same company, exactly the same company that overlaps. There's over 5 million companies. When you go into the Lancashire Partnership Against Crime, no surprise, you have chief constables linked into it. There's crime all the way through, fraud throughout. And here we are. Remember, airwave radio system. So via these police chief constables, you then have Airwave Application Services Limited to do with police radios and military radios. Dissolved as I'm exposing the fraud. Incorporated not long after the World Trade Center disaster in April. Then you have Motorola. You'll notice, I believe your radios are still Motorola make, okay? It's all tying in. Crime throughout. Fraudulent active entity companies. Then you have Airwave Solutions Limited, another one. This person resigned as I'm exposing the fraud. Here's Airwave Solutions. Here's the different names. They link in with British Telecom. See that? BT Wireless Limited at the bottom. Started just before the World Trade Center disaster and then changing their company names around the disaster. And then you can see here, this is important, the last name change was when it was called Airwaves Safety Communications Limited. That is when I was literally finding out about Airwave. It was when it was coming in to the police. That's when I had been in Dorset Police for a year. And I remember it. I remember us having to sign something and we were thinking, okay, is this technology safe? And we had to sign it to stay in the job. I think this is all part of what they planned, guys. On the incorporation document, it's a forged document. You can see the lines have been removed. There should be lines behind that, and they've removed them. You can just about make out it's difficult there. You can just see the starts of the line, the start of the lines on the right. So, guys, all of you, you need to make a decision. You might want to seriously consider stopping any further updates on your devices, okay, or stop using your devices. It's up to you. And those of you that are in the police and the military, please heed this warning. You have to consider the threat to you personally, looking at all of this evidence available to you, everybody. We are dealing with criminal organisations at the head of our governments and the head of our organisations. Those government organisations involved in very serious crimes against humanity, and it looks as though they are considering very serious attacks on humanity, linking in to what they, well, they're not, because it's not our creator, but it's linking into scripture, which is evil. It's not God creating this. It's an evil group of people who are completely lost, everybody, completely against our creator, and everyone needs to unite against this now. Everyone needs to unite. All right. Thanks very much for watching, and please take this very seriously. Take care. Bye-bye. And those around him cannot be trusted, everybody. He is part of this whole criminal system that is in place to exploit humanity. Here is my research in relation to Donald Trump, or at least a small part of it. Most of you will know that he has connections to Scottish golf clubs. This is from Wikipedia. Trump International Golf Links Scotland is a golf course in Balmedie in Aberdeenshire, Scotland, owned by Donald Trump. It opened in 2012. This is more information in relation to it, where he was hoping it would be the world's best golf course. This is the record in Companies House for Donald Trump. If we look at his company, Trump Hotel St Andrews Limited, you can see actually it has an address in Edinburgh. Edinburgh is important in all of this. It does appear that this could be the real Jerusalem, but also it is where the world's oldest Freemasons lodge that is still active is based. On the incorporation document, you can see a company called Dundas and Wilson CS LLP. That company on Companies House is shown here. Dundas and Wilson CS LLP, an address in Edinburgh. Look when it dissolved, as I'm exposing the fraud. It was incorporated in 2004, 3 years after the World Trade Center disaster, which is a key event in relation to all of this. Within the Companies House record, you have Stephen Miller, who was born, according to this, in 1972, 1 year after the start of the World Economic Forum. He was appointed to this company in October 2019, 2 months prior to the outbreak in Wuhan. That director is linked to Nabarro LLP. You can see at the bottom, CMS Cameron McKenna Holdings, and also a company called Sold Out Limited. This is important. Looking at my previous research in relation to the threat of directed energy weapons, you can see that coming from the research, the same company features Nabarro LLP on page 101. On page 102, where the evidential links flow through, you can see that you have Sold Out Limited, the same company that we just saw. On page 103, we then find links to Jimmy Savile. That is via CMS Cameron McKenna Nabarro Alswang LLP Company. Here is the research in relation to Jimmy Savile, and this is a screenshot taken from a YouTube video where two people claim to have been on an outward bound course and was sexually abused on that course and witnessed a child being murdered. Let's look at the actual document and look at the outward bound trust where Jimmy Savile appears to have been connected. Moving on to the next pages, we can see that it is linked to Farah and Co. on the incorporation document. Those of you who've seen my previous evidence, will know that this links to Ghislaine Maxwell and Robert Maxwell. Further down on the incorporation document, on page, say the page number, 31 of 33, I believe, you have Grand Lodge. See this just in the bottom corner there, Grand Lodge Publications, Grand Lodge Limited, resigned in 2007. So Grand Lodge Limited. Within the same company, you have Her Royal Highness Beatrice of York. You also have as a director a Rothschild, Rothschild, Forrester, Lynn Forrester de Rothschild. You also have Prince Andrew, the Duke of York. And he resigned in March 2019, the year of the outbreak. Further research following the evidential links to Goldenstone Schools Limited. You can verify and corroborate all of this information using my video and documents as templates. Goldenstone Schools Limited had already featured in the fraud, and it's a fraudulent entity company linked to an address that had already been linked to Companies Made Simple of 2022 Wenlock Road, London. Companies Made Simple is important because it links to the World Trade Center disaster and Larry Silverstone, international fraud, and the removal of a company name in Westco Nominees Limited by our governments, a very serious crime. The incorporation document does not match the register. It is therefore fraudulent. It says British Salem Schools Limited. Within the Goldenstone Company, you then reach Monk's Investment Trust Public Limited Company. This is a company that features in my research regarding Rishi Sunak and links very closely to the Russian government, international fraud throughout, and potential sexual offences involving monks. It also links closely to JP Morgan, which then ties in with the Fleming Company. Within the Goldenstone Company, you have another royal connection to Her Royal Highness, the Princess Royal, Princess Anne. She resigned in March 2002, not long after the World Trade Center disaster. You then have royal yachting companies. Arbella House, with fraud throughout. Links to military personnel. On the right there, you'll see squadron leader John Spencer, which of course will likely link to Lady Diana. At the bottom of the incorporation document for Arbella House, you have a mention of the Flemings, John Fleming and Co. Limited, Northern, on the incorporation document. There's links to oil companies, again, fraud. This then ties in with research already done in relation to Michelle Mone, the Baroness who received a yacht through the PPE scandal. There's links to Vistra. You then find connections further down to chartered accountants, benevolent associations, because of course they need accountants to facilitate the crime, as well as solicitors and financial advisors. You then have Protocol Education Limited, again fraud throughout criminal organisations, originally called Catalyst Education Limited. which is linked to Waterloos and the Freemasons, the London Associates of Councils, more fraudulent companies, and of course, no exception here, we find links to Ingenious Film Partners, again, exactly the same companies that then link in throughout the fraud and ties Hollywood into this international conspiracy against humanity and against children. You then have a company called British Pregnancy Advisory Service and Population Matters. So you can see how this ties in to population control through sinister activities rather than through transparency and a incentivized choice at staged intervals to manage people. You can then see links into the diocesan companies, other royal companies, and Masonic companies, now Masonic Samaritan Fund on the bottom right here. Fraud throughout. The Royal Masonic Trust for Girls and Boys. This company then links in to the Association of Chief Constables on another document stemming from the research of Julian Assange. On the document is Bates, Wells and Braithwaite, which then links into the research of Madeleine McCann and into Keir Starmer. The same directors that we were looking at here then links to Grand Lodge Limited that we mentioned earlier, an outward bound corporate limited company. Here's Grand Lodge Limited. Grand Lodge Limited is also connected to Waterloo, a Freemason company linking to Waterloo. Grand Lodge Publications. We then find connections to Portugal, which is very important due to the case of Madeleine McCann and where she went missing. The Portuguese Chamber of Commerce and Industry. This was incorporated in 1980, the same year that the Georgia Guidestones were erected. The Georgia Guidestones mention keeping the population to under 500 million. On the incorporation document for that, you have companies that are significant. You have the National Westminster Bank Limited. This is the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce. You have another, you have Banco Tota, another bank, and the Portuguese Government Trade Office. Another bank, Banco Nacional, and Rolls-Royce, a very English company, already featured throughout the fraud. Further down, you have connections to the Portuguese National Tourist Office, of an address of Bond Street, New Bond Street in London, an address used throughout the fraud. More banks. Within the Portuguese company, you then have links to the Italian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which will, of course, tie in with the Vatican and the crimes linking him with the Church against humanity. You can see the changes of company name. According to the company records, Italian Chamber of Commerce for Great Britain in London, in brackets, prior to changing to the Italian Chamber of Commerce in 1996. But it's a fraudulent entity company because the is actually at the front. You then have links, we've already mentioned it, within the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce to JP Morgan. Is JP Morgan Limited. That company is very significant in relation to this fraud because it ties in with the Fleming family. This particular company was incorporated in 1930. On the incorporation overview page, you can see the changes in company name. One either side. You can see the change here in 1997 and then again in 2001 prior to the World Trade Center disaster. It's a fraudulent company. Should never have been allowed to trade. It actually has the Chase National Executors Trustees Corporation Limited on the incorporation document, but they've put Chase Manhattan Limited. It's criminal, it's fraudulent. Our government are exploiting and victimizing humanity. Various other Masonic companies then feature throughout the research. Cybersecurity companies, fraudulent, criminal, targeting humanity and making it appear as though it's another nation when in fact they are working collaboratively against the people. Links to the military via the Forces Pension Society, a criminal, fraudulent organisation connected to Jordans and Sons Limited. Connections to various Rothschild companies coming in from that Masonic charity. Rothschild's international banking family and fraud against humanity. JP Morgan, Asia Growth and Income PLC, links in. You can see here connected to Asia and then removing the Asia name. Linking into Africa, British South Africa Company, luxury hotels, fraudulent organisations, more Masonic companies, the Royal Masonic Benevolent Institution Care Company, crime, fraud, deception, suffering, targeting of humanity. Another one of Trump's companies, Trump International Golf Club Scotland Limited, active at the time of the screenshot, based in Edinburgh, also linked to Dundas and Wilson, CSLLP, on the incorporation document. Various companies on the incorporation document. Another one of Donald Trump's companies, Trump Hotel St Andrews, which I think we mentioned earlier. Going into that, Colin Lowry, again links to CMS Cameron McKenna Nabarro Olswang LLP, the very same company links very, very closely to the Outward Bound company and the apparent murder of 2 children, according to those witnesses. Abuse of 2 children and murder of 1. Again, born 1971. Various shell company creations coming off of it, where they just change the name, the number within the brackets against Companies House guidelines to create very similar company names. A connection to Lloyd's very quickly now. I acquired forged Lloyd's bank documents from the company that I was part of. The complaint has still never been finalised. This particular Lloyd's company was dissolved in 2012, Lloyd's TSB. We then have one of the same directors linked to Hunting Park Limited. I'll let you decide what that may refer to. Within the Hunting company, you have DW directors. I'm not going to show all of these, but Reform Scotland, linked to Brighton companies, Warehouse, Liverpool, United Bakeries, California Cake Company, based in Edinburgh. Within California Cake Company, it's linked to the international fraud via Temple Chambers address. One Advisory Limited is within that company. These all feature throughout the fraud and linking into the World Trade Center disaster via the previous research. FRP Advisory. Stephen Boyd within the California Company links to various patisserie and food companies, hotels. Balmoral connections now going back to DWP, Balmoral Park Limited, Balmoral Group Holdings Limited. Balmoral links into the royal family. Then National Grid companies, energy, fraud against humanity. National Grid, various National Grid companies linking into KPMG, had already featured previously in the fraud multiple times, and this was the auditor for Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council, where this all started for me. Then you have laser companies, Salisbury Healthcare. Salisbury's not far from Dorset. within Salisbury Healthcare, you have John Cavill, or Cavill. He links to Beef Management, fraudulent company. King's College Hospital. King's College Hospital. One of the directors within my company, shareholders, is linked also to King's College Hospital, where this all started for me, where they removed me for refusing to file forged bank documents, for refusing to commit a serious crime, and refusing to resign and step aside so that they can do so. Linked into the prison services, control over everything. They can make it look like people have gone to prison when they haven't, to fit the narrative of their agenda. They can put people in prison and frame them to fit their agenda. It's a criminal, fraudulent system, and everyone is at risk from it. Everything is at stake. Humanity, moral conscience. It is not of our Creator. Links to addresses that then link into the special advisor for the last few UK Prime Ministers, Douglas Dougie Smith, and a fraudulent company in Oswald's of Edinburgh. Linking in to Jordan's Scotland Limited. Jordan's, of course, a very significant company in the fraud. Connections are then made to defence companies, defence contracting companies that are fraudulent. This one in particular, incorporated in 1998, Jordan Limited on the incorporation document, a criminal organisation to defraud the public through defence contracts that are not even required. School companies in Scotland, Edinburgh, that are fraudulent, means there are no accountability and liability linked to the same address as the special advisor who started up Fever sex parties in 1998. According to the research, has been arrested for threats to kill and practices the dark arts. Another defence contracting company on the incorporation document, also linked to the child trafficking and murder, CMS Cameron McKenna. Premier Custodial Finance Limited. Control, full control through crime, deception, suffering. Allen and Overy on the incorporation, featuring throughout the fraud and linking in significantly to the Nicola Bulley case. Another director linking into Traffic Information Services Holdings. Full control through crime, including through our traffic management, insurance policies, etc. Criminal organisations. Clifford Chance features throughout the fraud and links to Max Clifford. Further down on the incorporation document, Swift 596 Limited. The international transaction system is called SWIFT. It's fraudulent to move money using banks for a criminal organisation to defraud the entire world, practically, the innocents, by moving defrauded money through into offshore accounts. Another one of Donald Trump's company, Trump International Golf Club Scotland Limited, going in through, another one here, DT Connect Europe Limited, Donald Trump, previously connected until 2017. Dissolved March 2022 as I'm making inquiries within my company. On the incorporation document, Donald Trump. Also Eric Trump. DW directors. And again, Dundas and Wilson, CS LLP in Edinburgh. The DWP company links into Murray Estates Developments Limited. I suspect that ties in with Andy Murray, the famous tennis player, and his family, and the connections through to the Dunblane massacre, possibly to carry out the removal of firearms from the public in relation to what they planned ahead. Do not trust this man or those that are around him. I say this with clear evidence. There is lots more, including connections via David Sorensen back into Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, with David Sorensen having been Donald Trump's close aides in his group. He resigned after allegations of an assault by his wife, according to the research. We really are living under a criminal system, everybody, and it must stop. These people have very sinister plans for humanity and will try to blame it on biblical prophecies, when in fact it is their deception and crimes and nothing to do with our Creator whatsoever. This must change whilst it still can. Thanks for watching.